Okay, all you rim guard professionals, we're gonna learn how to pump fluid from the tank with that pump into a tote. You'll do the same process if you're going from that tote to a tire. First step, if you're filling a tote, you wanna make sure that the vent is removed. Otherwise, you'll put pressure in there and it'll rupture the tank. We don't want that kind of mess. As long as your tank lid looks like this, it's vented anyway. We normally just leave ours loose a little, but it is vented, so you don't have to worry about opening that. First thing we're gonna do, I already have our air line connected and our two hoses connected to the pump. The hose that has this end on it will always go to the tank that you're filling the tire from, in this case, the bulk tank. So we'll go ahead and hook those cam locks onto there. Before we go any further, we're gonna make sure we have this on pump to tank. Notice where the arrow on the handle is pointing, pump to tank. Yours may be labeled out, but either way, that's the hose that connects to the tank. Once we flip that lever, we can now open the valve on the tank. First thing we're gonna do, the other end of the hose is connected to nothing. That way it can draw air. So again, that this is on pump to tank, we're gonna go ahead and turn on the air, and that's simply gonna pump air into the tank. You can see it splashing around. That aerates the fluid. It does have sediment in it. If you don't do this before you take liquid from it, you'll end up with an inconsistent mix, which is not good. So we'll let that run for about a minute. That'll stir that fluid up, make sure we have a good consistency. Okay, so it's been about a minute. That should be sufficient to stir the liquid in the tank. At this point, we're just gonna turn the air off on the pump, flip that over. Now the hose that says pump to tire. In this instance, we're actually gonna transfer fluid from the bulk tank to an IBC tote. So instead of this going to a tire, you have this fitting that goes on in place of the tire filling gun. So we're gonna hook this on here and then attach that to the tote. So just like on the bulk tank, this will slide on here. It's called a cam lock fitting. We'll go ahead and lock both of those tabs back. Now that we've done that, we can open the valve, which will allow fluid to be pumped into the bottom of the tank. Again, make sure that this cap is off, otherwise you'll pressure the tank, which can cause it to rupture. We have both the tank and the tote ready to pump. We're gonna switch this over to pump to tire. Again, make sure that that's aiming towards pump to tire or the inside of the pump. Now that that's done, we're gonna turn the air on. You'll hear the pump start to load up. You can tell by the sound that it's now pumping fluid, and that's taking fluid out of that tank, through that hose, through the pump, and out here into our 250-gallon tote. Don't fill it the whole way. I'd recommend leave, at least 6 or 8 inches at the top. That way when you go to aerate this tote before you fill a tire, it doesn't splash out the top. This will take maybe 20 minutes to fill this tote. Make sure you keep an eye on the tank while it's filling. Do not walk away and let it overflow. While you're waiting for the tote to fill, get a 5-gallon bucket full of water. That way we can flush the pump and the hoses when we're done so they don't get all gummed up and stored. Okay, so our tote's pretty close to full. All I've done at this point is turn off the air valve to stop the pump. This is the part where you're gonna wanna pay attention to avoid as much cleanup or any potential mess as you can. So the first thing we're gonna do is actually move the pump pretty close to the tank so we can reach both. We're gonna go ahead and turn off the valve to the tank. We're gonna crack one of these loose and leave the other connected. At that point, we're gonna leave this on pump to tire, which is again going to the tote outside, and we're gonna start to turn the pump on just a little bit, and this will actually pump the fluid out of the hose so we don't have much mess. So once that's on a little bit, go ahead and loosen up the other fitting, turn that on more, and take that off. Turn your pump on full blast, and that'll draw most of the fluid out of the hose, and that way we only have a little bit of a mess to clean up. So just leave that pump on for a minute. That'll pump the rest of that into that tote, get our hoses clean. That should be good there. We're gonna go ahead and turn that off. We're gonna come outside, turn off the valve to the tote, and then we're gonna do basically the same process in reverse. We're gonna unhook one of these. That'll give us just enough suction, so that air can move, and we'll blow this hose into the drain while we clean out the pump. So to do that, we're gonna take our pump, get it to where we can reach. We're gonna put that end in the drain, that way we can discharge what's in the hoses. That's the side that goes pump to tank, and that's now going into the drain. So we're gonna flip it that way, pump to tank. That'll put it into the drain. We're gonna double check, make sure we have our fitting cracked loose outside on the tote, and then we're gonna start turning on the end. We've got this cracked loose a little bit, that way it has some airflow. Gonna go back to the pump, turn it on just a little bit, get some suction going. It's windy, but hopefully you can hear it's already trying to drain this hose. So we're gonna unhook that the rest of the way, pull it off a little, let it get the rest of the drip out of the valve. I'm gonna stick that directly into the 5-gallon bucket of water we got earlier. Then all we have to do is turn the pump on, and that'll be flushing clean water through the pump and the hoses to make sure they don't get sticky and gummed up for future use. You'll be able to hear when it stops gurgling, then just go ahead and shut the pump off, and we're done. So you can hear the pump speed up. I can hear the gurgle from the drain. It's about done. Shut it off, and at this point we're done. Don't forget to disconnect the hoses, coil everything up nicely, and put it away. That way it's ready to go for the next guy. No mess.